The perfect evening that changed everything. The crystal chandelier sparkled above the crowd like 1,000 stars. Elena Rivera stood in the grand ballroom of the Chicago Fairmont Hotel, her emerald dress flowing perfectly around her slim figure. At 28, she had everything she had ever dreamed of. Her architecture firm was growing fast. Her designs were winning awards. And tonight she stood beside Marcus Thornton, the man who had promised to be her husband. "You look beautiful tonight," Marcus whispered in her ear, his hand resting on her lower back. His expensive cologne mixed with the scent of roses that decorated every table. Around them, Chicago's wealthiest people talked, laughed, and drank champagne. This charity gala was the event of the season. Elena smiled up at him. Marcus was perfect. Tall, handsome, successful. He owned Thornton Industries, a real estate empire worth millions. Everyone wanted to know him, and he had chosen her. A girl from a small town who had worked hard to build her career. "Thank you for organizing this," Elena said softly. "The Children's Hospital will receive so much help from tonight." Marcus kissed her forehead. "Anything for you, my love. Now I need to speak with some investors. Will you be okay for a few minutes?" "Of course," Elena replied. She watched him walk away, his confident stride cutting through the crowd. She felt lucky, so incredibly lucky. "Elena!" A familiar voice called out. She turned to see Victoria Chun, her best friend since college, rushing toward her. Victoria wore a stunning red dress that hugged her curves. Her dark hair was styled in perfect waves. "Victoria! I didn't think you were coming," Elena said, hugging her friend. "You said you had that business trip to New York." Something flickered in Victoria's eyes. Something Elena couldn't quite read. "I changed my plans. I couldn't miss this event. You look amazing." They talked for a while, catching up on work and life. But Elena noticed Victoria seemed nervous. She kept looking around the room, checking her phone, avoiding eye contact. "Is everything all right?" Elena asked with concern. Yes. Everything is fine," Victoria said quickly. "I just need to use the restroom. I'll be back." Elena watched her friend disappear into the crowd. Something felt wrong, but she couldn't place what it was. 20 minutes passed. Marcus hadn't returned. Elena decided to look for him. She walked through the ballroom, smiling at people she knew, making small talk. Then she noticed a door slightly open at the far end of the hall. It led to a private meeting room. Voices came from inside. One was Marcus. The other was female. Elena's heart began to race. She knew she shouldn't listen, but something pulled her forward. "We can't keep doing this," the female voice said. It was Victoria. Elena's blood turned cold. "Why not?" Marcus replied. His voice sounded different. Harder. "She doesn't suspect anything. Elena is too trusting, too naive. But you're engaged to her." Victoria's voice rose slightly. Marcus laughed. It was a cruel sound that Elena had never heard before. "The engagement is business, Victoria. Her architecture firm is growing. Her connections are useful. Once we're married, I'll have access to her clients, her network. Then I can expand Thornton Industries into the design sector." Elena pressed her hand against the wall to steady herself. The room was spinning. "And what about me?" Victoria asked. "What about us?" "You'll always be my real love," Marcus said smoothly. "Elena is just a stepping stone. A convenient one. She's so desperate for approval, so eager to please. It makes her easy to control." The words cut through Elena like knives. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. 3 years. 3 years of her life with this man. 3 years of believing in their love, their future, their plans together. And her best friend, Victoria, who she had trusted with every secret, every fear, every dream. The door opened wider. Elena found herself staring directly at them. Marcus had Victoria pressed against the desk, his hand on her waist. They froze when they saw her. For a moment nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The silence was heavy, suffocating. Then Elena found her voice. It came out steady, which surprised her. "How long?" Victoria's face went pale. "Elena, I can explain." "How long?" Elena repeated, louder this time. Marcus straightened his jacket, his expression changing from shock to something cold and calculated. Does it matter? 2 years, Victoria whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I never meant. 2 years, Elena repeated. The betrayal was complete. Total. While she had been planning their wedding, choosing flowers and venues, Marcus had been with her best friend. While she had confided in Victoria about her fears and insecurities, Victoria had been sleeping with her fiancé. Elena, let's be adults about this, Marcus said, his voice taking on that commanding tone he used in business meetings. You're upset. I understand. But think about this rationally. We can work something out. Work something out? Elena's voice shook now. You used me. You both used me. I gave you opportunities, Marcus said coldly. Your firm was nothing before you met me. I introduced you to clients. I opened doors. You should be grateful. The cruelty in his words finally broke through her shock. Elena pulled the engagement ring from her finger and threw it at him. It bounced off his chest and fell to the floor with a small clink. We're done, she said. Both of you. Stay away from me. She turned and walked out, her head held high. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her fall apart. Not yet. Not here. But as soon as she reached her car in the parking garage, the tears came. Great sobbing tears that shook her entire body. She sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel, feeling like her entire world had shattered into pieces. ## the systematic destruction. The next morning, Elena woke up hoping it had all been a terrible dream. But the empty space on her finger where the ring had been told her the truth. It was real. All of it. She called her office. I'm taking a few days off, she told her assistant Sarah. Personal emergency. But 3 days later, when Elena tried to return to work, she found the locks had been changed. Sarah met her at the door, tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Elena. Mr. Thornton called yesterday. He said you're being removed as partner. He owns 51% of the firm now, remember? He's taking control. Elena stared at her in disbelief. He can't do that. I built this company. These are my designs, my clients. He can, Sarah said sadly. The lawyers already came. I'm sorry. I really am. That was just the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, Elena watched as Marcus systematically destroyed everything she had built. He spread rumors that she had mental health issues, that she was unreliable, that she had stolen designs from other architects. Her clients started canceling projects. Her professional connections stopped returning her calls. Victoria, meanwhile, had disappeared. No calls, no messages. Just silence. Elena hired a lawyer, but Marcus had better ones. Expensive ones. They tied up her assets, froze her accounts, claimed she owed the firm money for various expenses. They used legal language and loopholes that Elena couldn't fight against. Her lawyer advised settling, taking whatever Marcus offered. You can't win against Thornton Industries, the lawyer said bluntly. He has unlimited resources. He'll drag this out for years. You'll go bankrupt paying legal fees. 2 months after that terrible night at the gala, Elena sat in her apartment surrounded by boxes. She had lost everything. Her business. Her reputation. Her savings. Even this apartment belonged to a building Marcus owned. He was forcing her out. Her phone rang. It was her mother, calling from their small town in Ohio. Elena, honey, are you okay? I heard what happened. Come home. Please come home. I can't, Mom, Elena said, her voice hoarse from crying. I can't face everyone. They all knew Marcus and I were engaged. I can't handle the pity, the questions. Then go somewhere else. Anywhere. Just get out of Chicago. That man is poison. Get away from him before he takes everything, including your spirit. Her mother was right. Elena needed to leave. She needed to disappear, to heal, to figure out who she was without Marcus's shadow hanging over her. That night, Elena looked at a map. She closed her eyes and let her finger drop randomly. When she opened them, she was pointing at Oregon. The coast. A small town called Seaview Bay. She had never been there. She knew nothing about it. It was perfect. ## a new beginning in Seaview Bay. 3 weeks later, Elena stood on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The wind whipped her hair around her face. Salt spray mixed with the mist. Below, waves crashed against rocks, sending white foam high into the air. It was beautiful. Wild. Nothing like Chicago. She had rented a tiny cottage at the edge of town. It had one bedroom, a small kitchen, and a living room with windows that faced the sea. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Marcus couldn't touch it. Seaview Bay had only 3,000 people. Everyone knew everyone. The main street had a grocery store, a diner, a bookshop, and a few other small businesses. It was quiet, simple, exactly what Elena needed. She got a job at the local diner serving coffee and sandwiches. It was humbling work for someone who had once designed million-dollar buildings. But it paid her rent. And nobody here knew who she was or what had happened. They just knew her as Elena, the quiet new girl who worked the morning shift. One morning, a man sat at the counter. He was in his mid-30s with dark hair, sharp gray eyes, and a scar along his jaw. He wore simple clothes, jeans, and a black jacket. But there was something about the way he carried himself. Alert. Aware. Like he was always watching. "Coffee," he said simply. Elena poured him a cup. "Cream or sugar?" "Black." They didn't speak again, but Elena felt his eyes on her as she worked. It wasn't creepy or uncomfortable, just observant, like he was trying to figure something out. He came back the next day, and the day after that, always sitting at the same spot, always ordering black coffee. Sometimes he'd bring a book or a newspaper. Sometimes he just sat there thinking. On the fourth day, he finally spoke beyond ordering. "You're not from here." Elena looked up from wiping the counter. "Is it that obvious? You don't have the local accent. And you move like someone who's used to a faster pace of life." He took a sip of coffee. "Big city." "Chicago," Elena admitted. She didn't know why she told him. Maybe because he seemed safe. Like he understood something about running away. "Big change," he said. "That was the point." He nodded, as if that answer told him everything he needed to know. "I'm Daniel. Daniel Cross. Elena Rivera." "Nice to meet you, Elena Rivera." He left money on the counter and stood up. "See you tomorrow." And he did come back. Every morning for 2 weeks. Their conversation stayed short but grew more comfortable. Elena learned that Daniel had moved to Seaview Bay a year ago. He kept to himself mostly. He worked as a consultant for various businesses, helping them with strategy and planning. He lived in a house on the other side of town. One rainy afternoon, when the diner was empty, Daniel asked her a direct question. "What are you running from?" Elena's hand froze while pouring coffee. "What makes you think I'm running? I recognize the signs. I've been there." His gray eyes were kind but piercing. "You don't have to tell me. But sometimes it helps to talk to someone who understands." Elena surprised herself by sitting down across from him. And then slowly she told him everything. About Marcus. About Victoria. About losing everything she had worked for. About the betrayal that still felt like an open wound. Daniel listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Betrayal changes you," he finally said. "I know. I was in the military. Special operations. My team trusted our commander completely. He sold us out to the enemy for money. 6 good men died because of his greed. I barely made it out." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "I'm so sorry. The anger never really goes away," Daniel continued. "But you learn to channel it. You either let it destroy you, or you use it to rebuild yourself into something stronger. Which did you choose?" "Both," he said honestly. "I was destroyed first. Spent a year drinking myself into nothing. Then I decided that if I was going to survive, I needed to be smarter, harder, better than before. I learned everything I could about strategy, about reading people, about protecting myself. I became a consultant to help businesses avoid being exploited. I turned my pain into purpose." Elena felt something stir inside her. Something that had been dead since that night at the gala. "I want that. I want to be stronger." "Then you will be," Daniel said. "But it takes time. And it takes deciding what you really want. Do you want revenge? Or do you want peace?" "I don't know," Elena admitted. "That's okay. You don't have to know yet. Just survive first. Get stronger." The rest will come. Over the next few months, Daniel became Elena's friend and mentor. He taught her about business strategy, about protecting herself legally, about reading people's true intentions. He introduced her to contacts who could help her rebuild her career under a new consulting name. He trained with her physically too: running, hiking, self-defense. Her body became stronger and so did her mind. Elena started taking on small design projects. Nothing big, just helping local businesses with their layouts and renovations. She used a different business name, Rivera Design Consulting. She kept her profile low, building slowly and carefully. But something else was growing too. Feelings for Daniel. He was nothing like Marcus. Where Marcus had been smooth and charming, Daniel was direct and honest. Where Marcus had taken, Daniel gave. Where Marcus had destroyed her, Daniel was helping her rebuild. One evening, they sat on the cliff overlooking the ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "I got a message today," Elena said quietly. "From an old colleague in Chicago. Marcus is planning something big. A massive real estate development project. Hotels, shopping centers, residential towers. He's calling it the Thornton Legacy Project." "And how does that make you feel?" Daniel asked. Elena was quiet for a long moment. "Like I want him to fail. Like I want him to lose everything the way I did." "Is that what you really want? Revenge?" "Yes," Elena said. Then more quietly, "I don't know. Part of me just wants to move on, to be happy here with." She stopped, realizing what she was about to say. Daniel turned to look at her. His gray eyes were soft. "With me?" Elena's heart raced. "Yes, with you." He reached out and took her hand. "I care about you, Elena. More than I've cared about anyone in a long time. But I need to know that you're with me because you want to be. Not because you're running from something else." "I want to be with you," Elena said firmly. "But I also need closure. I need to face what happened. I need to prove to myself that I'm not that broken, naive girl anymore." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then we'll do both. We'll build our life here. And we'll make sure Marcus Thornton can never hurt you again. But we'll do it the right way. Not out of blind revenge, but out of justice." "How?" "We find out everything about his new project. We look for weaknesses, for lies, for anything illegal. If he's as corrupt as you say, there will be evidence. And when we have enough, we expose him. Not to destroy him out of spite, but to stop him from destroying others." Elena felt a sense of purpose crystallize inside her. This was different from simple revenge. This was about justice. About protecting others from the monster Marcus truly was. "Okay," she said. "Let's do it." Daniel leaned in and kissed her softly. It was gentle, caring. Nothing like the possessive kisses Marcus used to give her. When they pulled apart, Elena knew something fundamental had changed. She wasn't running anymore. She was preparing to fight back. That night, Elena opened her laptop and started researching. She looked up everything she could find about the Thornton Legacy Project. She read articles, looked at plans, tracked down information about Marcus's investors and partners. And in the shadows of the information, she found something interesting. Several of Marcus's biggest investors were people she used to know. People who had trusted her designs before Marcus destroyed her reputation. A plan began to form in her mind. It would take time. It would take patience. But she would show Marcus that you couldn't destroy someone completely. That some people rise from the ashes stronger than before. As the waves crashed below her cottage and the stars appeared above, Elena Rivera felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. And determination. The girl Marcus had betrayed was gone. In her place was a woman who knew exactly what she wanted. Justice. Love. And a future built on truth instead of lies. Part 2. Rising from the ruins. The transformation. 6 months after Elena had started her new life in Seaview Bay, she barely recognized herself. She stood in front of her bathroom mirror, studying the changes. Her body was lean and strong from the physical training Daniel had put her through. Her eyes, once dull with depression, now sparkled with purpose. Her hair was shorter, styled in a confident cut that framed her face. But the biggest changes were inside. She thought differently now. Strategically. Carefully. Daniel had taught her to see patterns, to read between lines, to never take anything at face value. Ready? Daniel called from the living room of her cottage. Elena grabbed her laptop bag and walked out. Daniel was reviewing documents at her small dining table. Over the past months, this cottage had become their unofficial headquarters. The walls were covered with notes, timelines, and research about Marcus and his Thornton Legacy project. "I've been going through the financial records you got from your contact," Daniel said, pointing at his computer screen. "There are inconsistencies in Marcus's funding sources. Some of these investment companies don't exist. Or at least, they don't exist in the way he's claiming." Elena leaned over his shoulder to look. Her heart raced with excitement. Shell companies? Possibly. Or money laundering. Either way, it's suspicious. Daniel turned to face her. "But we need more proof. Suspicions aren't enough." "Then we keep digging," Elena said firmly. Over the past months, Elena had been carefully rebuilding her professional network. She reached out to old colleagues under her new business name. She offered free consultations, gave valuable advice, slowly earned back trust. Many of them had been shocked by Marcus's accusations against her. Some had believed the lies. But others had always suspected Marcus was the problem, not Elena. One of those people was Richard Chan, Victoria's father. He was a successful investor who had always liked Elena. When Elena finally gathered the courage to call him, she was surprised by his response. "Elena, I'm so glad you called," Richard said warmly. "I never believed what Marcus said about you. And I'm deeply ashamed of my daughter's role in what happened. Victoria has refused to tell me the full story, but I know enough to understand she betrayed you terribly." "Thank you for saying that," Elena replied, her voice tight with emotion. "I want to help you," Richard continued. "Whatever you're planning, whatever you need. Marcus Thornton is a snake. I've been investigating some of his business practices, and I don't like what I'm finding." This was the breakthrough Elena needed. Richard had resources, connections, and most importantly, inside information about Marcus's investors. He became a crucial ally. With Richard's help, Elena and Daniel discovered more troubling details about the Thornton Legacy project. Marcus was promising investors huge returns, but the numbers didn't add up. He was overestimating property values, underestimating construction costs, and hiding debt through complex financial structures. "He's building a house of cards," Daniel said one evening. "One strong wind and it all falls apart." "Then we need to be that wind," Elena replied. But building a case against Marcus took time. They needed documentation, witnesses, proof that would hold up legally. And they needed to be careful. Marcus had power and connections. If he discovered what they were doing too early, he could shut them down. Elena started her own architectural consulting firm under her new name. She called it Rivera Design Consultants, using her real last name but keeping her profile low. Her first projects were small, helping local businesses in Seaview Bay redesign their spaces. But word spread quickly about her talent and fair prices. Within 3 months, she had attracted attention from bigger clients. Within 6 months, she was bidding on projects in Portland and Seattle. Her reputation was growing again, but this time it was built on her own terms, her own work, her own integrity. ## the strategy unfolds. One morning, Elena received an unexpected email. It was from a development company in Chicago asking if she would submit a design proposal for a major project. Her heart stopped when she read the project name, Thornton Legacy Project. "They don't know who you are," Daniel said when she showed him the email. "You're using a different business name working out of Oregon. To them, you're just another talented architect." "This is it," Elena whispered. "This is our way in." She accepted the invitation to submit a proposal. Over the next 2 weeks, Elena poured everything she had into creating the perfect design. She knew Marcus's tastes, his preferences, his weaknesses. She created something that would appeal directly to his ego, grand, impressive, designed to make a statement. But she also built in something else. Details that she knew were actually impractical. Design choices that looked beautiful but would create problems during construction. Nothing obvious. Nothing that would be caught in an initial review. But things that would cause expensive delays and complications later. "Are you sure about this?" Daniel asked as they reviewed the final proposal. If they accept your design and then discover these issues, it could hurt your reputation. They won't discover them until it's too late to easily change, Elena said. And by then we'll have exposed Marcus anyway. This design isn't meant to be built. It's meant to be bait. She submitted the proposal. 3 weeks later she got a call. She had made the shortlist. They wanted her to come to Chicago to present her design in person to the project team. Elena's hand shook as she hung up the phone. She hadn't been back to Chicago since she left. The thought of seeing Marcus again made her stomach turn. I'll go with you, Daniel said immediately. You don't have to face this alone. Elena shook her head. No, this is something I need to do myself. But thank you. The night before her flight, Elena and Daniel sat on their favorite cliff overlooking the ocean. The relationship between them had deepened over the months. They had become partners in every sense of the word. They worked together, planned together, supported each other. And they had fallen in love. I'm afraid, Elena admitted. Not of Marcus, but of who I might become if I let the anger take over. What if I turn into someone as cold and ruthless as he is? Daniel took her hand. You won't. Because you have something Marcus never had. Conscience. You're not doing this to destroy him for fun. You're doing this to stop him from hurting others. That's the difference between justice and revenge. What if justice isn't enough? Elena asked. What if, after all this, he gets away with everything? He won't, Daniel said firmly. We have evidence. We have witnesses. We have a plan. But Elena, you need to promise me something. What? Promise me that whatever happens in Chicago, you'll come back. Come back to me, to this life we're building. Don't let Marcus take that from you. Elena turned to face him fully. In the moonlight, Daniel's face was serious but gentle. She leaned in and kissed him deeply. I promise, she whispered. I'm coming back. This is my home now. You are my home. #return to Chicago. The Chicago skyline looked exactly the same as Elena remembered. Tall buildings reaching toward the sky. Lake Michigan stretching out vast and blue. Traffic filling the streets. But Elena felt like a different person. The frightened, broken woman who had fled this city was gone. In her place was someone stronger, smarter, more focused. She checked into a small hotel under her business name. Not the luxury hotel she used to frequent with Marcus, but a simple, comfortable place where nobody knew her. She wore professional clothes, a tailored navy suit. Her hair pulled back elegantly, minimal makeup. She looked successful but not flashy. Professional but not memorable. The presentation was scheduled for 2 p.m. at the Thornton Industries headquarters. Elena arrived 15 minutes early. The building was exactly as she remembered, modern glass and steel. Marcus's taste evident in every design choice. At the reception desk, she gave her business name. Elena Rivera from Rivera Design Consultants. I'm here for the Legacy Project presentation. The receptionist checked her list and nodded. Conference room B, 14th floor. They're ready for you. Elena's heart pounded as the elevator rose. Would Marcus be there? Would he recognize her? She had changed so much, but would it be enough? The elevator doors opened. Elena stepped out, her heels clicking on the marble floor. A young assistant greeted her and led her to the conference room. Mr. Thornton will be joining shortly, the assistant said. Can I get you water or coffee? Water, please, Elena replied, proud that her voice stayed steady. She set up her laptop and projector, arranging her presentation materials. Other people filed into the room, project managers, investors, consultants. She recognized some faces from her old life, but none of them recognized her. Then Marcus walked in. Elena's breath caught. He looked the same, tall, handsome, dressed in an expensive suit. But she saw things now that she hadn't seen before. The calculating coldness in his eyes. The arrogant set of his shoulders. The way he looked at people as if measuring their usefulness. He glanced at her briefly, his eyes sliding past without recognition. Is this the architect from Oregon? He asked his assistant. Yes, sir. Ms. Rivera from Rivera Design Consultants. Marcus nodded dismissively and took his seat at the head of the table. Let's begin. I have another meeting in an hour. Elena felt a strange sense of power. He didn't know who she was. All his money, all his connections, and he couldn't see past the surface. He had never really seen her, even when they were engaged. She started her presentation. Her voice was strong, confident. She walked through her design concept, highlighting the grand features that would appeal to Marcus's ego. The investors leaned forward, clearly impressed. Marcus watched with growing interest. When she finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then the applause came. "Impressive," Marcus said, standing up. "Very impressive. You've captured exactly what this project needs. Bold, ambitious, memorable." He walked closer, extending his hand. "I don't usually remember architects, but I'll remember you, Ms. Rivera. You have real talent." Elena shook his hand, looking directly into his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Thornton. I believe in building things that last. Things based on solid foundations, not just beautiful facades." Something flickered in Marcus's expression, but he smiled. "Precisely. That's exactly what the Thornton Legacy Project is about." Over the next hour they discussed details, timelines, costs. Elena answered every question perfectly. She had prepared for this. She knew this project inside and out. Not just her own design, but Marcus's entire plan. As the meeting wrapped up, Marcus approached her privately. "Ms. Rivera, I'd like to discuss bringing you on as the lead architect. Are you available for dinner tonight? We can discuss the contract details." Every instinct screamed at Elena to refuse. But this was part of the plan. Getting close enough to gather more evidence. "I'd be happy to," she replied professionally. They arranged to meet at an upscale restaurant downtown. After Marcus left, one of the investors approached Elena. "Ms. Rivera, that was an excellent presentation. I'm Robert Mitchell. I'm one of the primary investors in this project." Elena recognized the name. Richard Chun had mentioned him. Mitchell was having doubts about Marcus's financial projections. "Thank you, Mr. Mitchell," Elena said warmly. "I'd like to speak with you separately if possible," Mitchell said quietly. "I have some questions about the project that I'd prefer to discuss away from Thornton Industries." "Of course. I'm staying at the Harbor Inn. We could meet in the hotel restaurant tomorrow morning." Mitchell nodded gratefully. 9 a.m. Perfect. Elena left the building feeling energized. Everything was falling into place. Marcus had taken the bait. And she was making new connections with his investors, people who could become allies. That evening, Elena met Marcus at the restaurant. It was the same place he had taken her on their first date years ago. She wondered if he remembered. If he even cared. They talked business mostly. Marcus outlined his vision for the Legacy Project, his plans for expansion, his goals for the company. He was charming, confident, persuasive. Elena could see why she had fallen for him once. He was good at playing the role of the successful, caring businessman. "I have to say, Ms. Rivera, you remind me of someone," Marcus said at one point, studying her face. "I can't place who, but there's something familiar about you." Elena's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "I have one of those faces, I suppose. People say that often." "Perhaps," Marcus said, but he kept looking at her with that calculating expression. As dinner ended, Marcus suggested they continue their discussion over